Hey, everybody. It's the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott. I think Andre's high-maintenance son is in the room as well. Whether he is or not, we're glad to have you. We're here talking sports. It's an interesting day. It's an interesting time. Got a lot to talk about, so we appreciate you guys coming. Facebook.com/A to Z podcast, A to Z podcast.com, the purple podcast button on your fancy iPhone. Shouts, as always, to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen, to you guys for helping it grow. The standard reminder, we get excited, we say bad words, we venture into mature/immature subjects. So if that's not for you, if there are kids around, if you're in a work environment, please put on your earbuds or come back some other time. Andre, you're right on CPT. We were ready to go. Your kid came in the room. Is he still in there? What's the deal?
He calls my kid high maintenance. This is a guy that's damn near 40 years old, and his mom is still folding his blanket for him and getting his clothes clean. You tell me who's high maintenance.
The key is damn near 40 years old, not quite 40 years old.
You old, motherfucker. Regardless. At least AJ's got 5 years before he can worry about being a bum that you are.
Well, he should have higher goals, really, but, I mean, that's your business, not mine. I'm just his uncle.
Yeah. True indeed. Starting with kids and just how they were used and taken advantage of. How much of that money did you give to those high school ball players you paid for to watch last night?
I did pay $15 to go see the LaMelo Ball experience. And not only do I have zero regrets, but I would have paid more just to see the circus. Now, I didn't stay the whole game, but I did stop by what they called the Big Baller Brand pop-up shop in the concourse, which was just really three tables, three folding card tables full of T-shirts. People lined up to buy them.
Now, are the prices ridiculous like they are online and everything else for like the stuff that they have, or did you even look?
To tell you the truth, I couldn't get close enough to get a glance. So I snuck behind the crowd. I used the restroom because I was about to make the drive home. As I came back, I tried to get close. I couldn't. I heard them say 70, but I would want to say that was for two shirts, but I don't know. I was way too old to be there. And even though I was just a curious bystander, I really wasn't going to pay too close of attention to it. So, at the risk of you explaining what a marketing genius LaVar Ball is, and in many ways he is, most ways he is, he's done it. This is America, baby. Let it ride.
Sure.
It just says so much about our society, and a risk of me going on an old white guy rant right here. Just let me leave it by saying I'm glad that I went. Really glad. Had some chuckles, saw some things. I'm not sure I'd go back.
All right, you're a basketball purist. I'm not against LaVar Ball. I know it gets under a lot of people's skin, and it's a topic that's fun to talk about for people, especially people like you just said, the American that doesn't understand where he comes from. Not that I'm saying I understand where he comes from either. Marketing 101, he's taken advantage of. He's a mix of WWE and what the Kardashians have done on the E! Channel. And I didn't even, you know what? I'm going to say something right now that people are going to laugh at me before, and that's fine. I didn't realize people with these YouTube channels were making millions of dollars. He's taken advantage of where the society is at. It wasn't how I was raised. It wasn't how you were raised. It wasn't how most people that are listening to this podcast were raised. But I will say this. There are a lot of people that feel like they send their kids to big-time colleges, and the colleges use them up for their ability, and they make all the money off of them, and the family doesn't get anything from them. I can remember when LeBron James was 15, 16 years old, and Gloria James was saying this about the situation her son was in. I find it blasphemous. I find it blasphemous. Well, I want to say blasphemy, but I don't. But when people try to compare this kid to LeBron was selling out the Q. They couldn't even sell at the Canton Fieldhouse last night. And I don't want to attack a 17, 18-year-old kid, but I will say this. The first time I heard about him, you and I were recording at one of our old places that we used to record at all the time. And I'll never forget, as we were recording, Twitter was going nuts because he had just scored 100 points. And we started having these conversations about who the hell this kid was and what was going on. I think the Ball experiments has been a joke, but he's got one kid that was a number 2 draft pick in the draft. They have a brand, a shoe brand. What they did, basically the NBA has kind of adopted what he tried to do with the one and dones, with the G League stuff that they're going to go forward with next year. as much as we don't want to give him much credit, I think they had to get ahead of people like him because there were going to be more LaVar Balls if the NBA and college basketball didn't get in front of what was getting ready to start happening, is what I would say. And I think it's a zoo. I really don't want anything. I have a curiosity of watching him, but I'm not curious enough to to give up my time on a day or night and actually do that.
I'm going to come back to this thought later because it ties into something else I wanted to say. But I'll just say, when you said came in pro wrestling style, I mean, literally LaVar walked in pro wrestling style with a security escort in both fists in the air to mostly oohs and ahs in a couple of booths.
Right. I mean, the guy, he's okay with being that. He's making it. I mean, I don't know what his kids are going to become. And there's been some stories about the middle kid. The middle kid's going through middle kid problems is what I'll say. I'm not one of those websites to mock and make fun of 19, 20-year-old kids. But it seems like he's going through the tough end of it because there are people that are trying to take advantage of him, and that's what happens.
Well, you're right, but you're thinking too much. The kid sucks, and the young kid's not very good either. I mean, compared to Lonzo's awesome.
No. I'm not getting it confused. The kid is getting used by people that use people. That if you look into the story that's going on between the women and things in Vegas and what they've done to him, it's got nothing to do with basketball. It's got to do with because people know that face, people know that name, and now he's getting taken advantage of by women and people that we think are women. Dig into it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Well, no, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care to talk about this anymore. But LaVar, Lonzo was really good, is really good, has a chance to have a long career, right? As long as his head's right, he'll make hundreds of millions of dollars in today's NBA. But the other kid was never even really like major college worthy, and LaMelo doesn't really look like he's that good either. So. He took Lonzo's greatness and the other kid getting in trouble in China and getting kicked off UCLA and rolled with it. So good for him. Enjoy your 15 minutes is what I can say.
Yeah, but it's been more than 15 minutes though. Now Zach, it's 2018.
Yeah, but you know what, Dre has. But really, like, when's he on TV? What money is he really making? I don't know that, right?
He's made some money, obviously, he's made some money with the shoe company. Hell, Anthony Lima's wearing a shirt. People are wearing the slides. There are people that have got behind it. They made more money than they would have. They just would have did the regular route. The 15 minutes are still going. I don't agree with it. I'm just saying it's still here, and there are still people all over Instagram and people like you that still went and saw him less than 24 hours ago.
Yes,
it's been more than 15 minutes. Is all I'm saying.
Didn't go to see him. I went to see the kid, but there were clearly hundreds of people there who went to see LaVar Ball. Yes, you're right, and I weep for America.
And that's right, and that's all I'm going towards. I'm not trying to make it difficult. I just, at the end of the day, the Ball family's made a niche out of who they are. Yeah, it's a 15-minute thing, but it won't be 15 minutes because, as you said, the oldest one is going to hold on for them long enough, right? I mean, the oldest one can play. Plays on the L.A. Lakers. It's not going to be 15 minutes. We're going to see LaVar for another decade or two.
No, but you don't see LaVar with the Lakers because Grandpa LeBron has said, go, leave. You're not welcome here.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't think Grandpa LeBron helped steer his little brother back here too?
No, I don't. I really don't. I really don't because, listen, for this thing to come together, it took a special kind of vision, a special kind of scumbag, a special kind of trying to prey on people to put everything together the way that it has. It's
working, brother. It's working.
LeBron, frankly, don't have time to involve himself in any of that. Trust me.
He does not. But from what I heard, Lonzo early on, before LeBron even was traded there, wanted him away, and Magic talked to him. But that's part of the Lakers thing and saying, okay, enough's enough. And he's got to take care of the youngest kid. The youngest kid hasn't gone to school in, 2 years? It's just been like a free-for-all. And God bless them.
Yeah.
They made a bunch of money. I hope they don't ruin themselves.
Yeah, it's an only in America story. Urban Meyer is an only in America story, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. We have talked about it. We've seen him. We know him. He's been a winning football coach and a darn good one. And as he announces his retirement today, effective after the Rose Bowl, and all the speculation begins about official retirement, forced into retirement, when will he be back, where will he pop up, all of that. I think the most important takeaway, the most important lesson, Dre, going forward is just that the value, yes, it's a business. in anything, and LaVar has shown that. In the NFL, we know that. In the NBA, we know that. But the importance of one win, right, and how winning is really what matters. Because had Urban not beaten Michigan 2 weeks ago and done this, think about how different this entire conversation and context of it would be.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. The team had to know because they played unbelievable. They played the best game there, and we said that right after the Michigan game, how unbelievable the team played. You can say, I didn't watch the press conference, didn't have time for it. You can tell me whatever you want. And that's nothing wrong with this. Earl Bruce, this happens. And great teams and real teams are able to keep secrets, especially when it's about their leader. You're right, but you know what? At the end of the day, and I'm going to say this, and I'm one of those that does it too, it's so foolish for us to get caught up in one game to try to say who and what a coach is or a player is, because there's so much more that goes into it. But that's how we've always ranked these coaches and these people. Sure, winning that Michigan, if they lose that Michigan game and he makes the announcement he makes today, very easy to turn it around and say, the first time Harbaugh beats him. But come on, you and I both have said from the very beginning of everything that started this past summer, I never thought we would see Urban. And I'm not doing a victory lap because I could care less about being right or wrong in this. I felt like this was going to be Urban Meyer's last year no matter what. When you saw him at the Maryland game looking like he was about to have a baby or he was about to have diarrhea, I mean, the act is the – I know what you're saying, and that's great. That's a great angle to write about or whatever else. But to me, the writing's been on the wall all the way back to June or July.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how he's looked at what's dictating the conversation today, right?
Right. And I don't – maybe it is, and I'm not being a smartass. It's not dictated in the conversations I've had. Because like I said, I think we all knew this was coming. And no matter what, Michigan was, he dominated Michigan. You're right. Winning that game makes him walk off, and he has. I mean, what else didn't he accomplish in his time here? I'm sure people would love for him to have won another national championship. That would have been great. But he's better off, and to go a step further off of what you're saying, he's better off going to Pasadena, coaching in his only Rose Bowl, hopefully winning the Rose Bowl, not getting dominated by Nick Saban on the 29th, and he walks away, and no one can say a bad word about it. I mean, then people will say a bad word about him. But he came and he accomplished what it needed to be accomplished in 7 years at Ohio State and after the Tressel situation went down. And the last thing he wanted to do is have to walk away from his job like Tressel walked away from his job, right? When you're that type of guy and you've won as many championships as he has, and you've done the things that you've done at the University of Florida, Utah, Bowling Green, he just wanted to walk away as free as he could without people pointing fingers at him, calling him a bad guy, right? Because down in Florida,
sure.
They can't stand it.
No, I absolutely agree. And what I'm saying is beating Michigan has paved the way for that. Not getting in the playoff has paved the way for that. Yeah. I mean, I didn't use the word perfect, but that's what it's become, the perfect scenario for him to walk away, right, after all of this. Yeah. And here's the other thing I thought of before just the one win can change everything thing. Because that's not an all-encompassing statement. That's more of a today statement, a this week statement, right? You know how Cleveland fans had to endure for so many years. Every time a Cleveland team started to have success, they had to endure the sequence, the drive, the fumble, the shot, the Jose Mesa game, right? Well, for one more time during Michigan's bowl game, you know what it'll be there. Michigan fans will have to live with the 0-7. He never beat Urban Meyer, all of that for one more time, and then they'll get to move along. So they should be happy. And, you can continue down this road that the pressure on Jim Harbaugh, on James Franklin, on all of these guys now even gets turned up, right? I mean, Urban ran guys out of the Big Ten, multiple coaches just at Wisconsin. He ran them out, and that's part of his legacy too. Yeah, that's absolutely a big part of his legacy. I had the exact number in front of me. I don't have it now. I know some of you won when we don't have the exact number. I think 86% of his games he won as a college football coach. It is absolutely unreal. It is about winning. It's always about winning. I chuckled just following the press conference as I was finishing some work when Gene Smith said, now Ryan Day has to win some ball games. Of course he does. He has to win a shit ton of them. But to further
gotta win them all almost.
the perfect scenario here, Ryan Day is obviously a hell of a football coach. And going back now in retrospect to last January when he was offered the O coordinator job with the Tennessee Titans and didn't take it, it was like, okay, he's sitting on this. And if you're Gene Smith or whoever it is that has the money that really calls the shots at Ohio State and Gene Smith takes the bullets, it is so perfect to not open it up to a national search and the scrutiny now, because the program has been so good. Because even through this tumultuous season, when, as you said, and I will laugh about this for the rest of today, looks like he was either having a baby or having diarrhea, it's in great shape. So you make the relatively seamless transition, and we know it's not that, but on the core it's that. And then you get to keep this going with it in place, keep most of your recruits more likely. Try to extend this streak over Michigan and dominance over the Big Ten and all of these things. And then when it doesn't work out, then you go and get whoever's the next big thing at that time. So I just think
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. I just think in terms of optics and in terms of gut reaction, this has been a really, really good 3 weeks for Ohio State, for Urban Meyer, for Gene Smith, for the Nike swoosh, for all involved. I don't think anybody could argue that.
You just mentioned the name, and I got to say it. I know this is a nice day in Columbus, and I'm pro Ohio State. I want them to be good, all that other good stuff. How the fuck is Gene Smith outlast Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer? Don't answer. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
How does that guy continue to collect checks with all that he's seen and all he's done? He's like an old mafia movie. God bless him. Cleveland's own. God bless him is all I'll say. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I ain't saying he's a good guy either, but maybe that's just the job he has and the role he has. You mentioned the day part, and I see people on Twitter, and as you're saying that, I see Nick Camino, the doctor himself, questioning why they would just give the job today. And you answered it very well. And I think people that don't understand programs and how programs work ask that question. And I'm not going at Nick. I'll say that to his face, too. Having Day there and being able to keep – it's funny. You should, if I can show you who just texted me, and read what I texted you. By the way, just look and glance at what I texted you when it goes about the balls, and you'll understand what I was saying.
Okay.
The Day situation is perfect for him, right? He had a chance to be an NFL offensive coordinator. He turned it down to go to the Buckeyes, and I'm sure there are people across the football landscape that were saying, "Hey, Todd, what are you doing? Why would you go about doing it this way?" I think the Ohio State, because of what this program has looked like for 7 years and where it was at that year and a half, 2 years, where Tressel was gone, I think they understand what it's like to go out there. And it's like dating. It's like hell, I wouldn't know how to start dating. I've been involved with my wife for so long. The Buckeyes are in a good place. If this guy can continue doing what they're doing and continue bringing in the recruits that they have. I'm not saying this is the smartest guy in the world to go off of, but Cardell Jones tweeted this the other night during the Big Ten championship game. He basically said the best thing that has happened to Ohio State's program is having Coach Day, because he calls a game for the quarterbacks. And right now, when you have Dwayne Haskins getting ready to go to New York City to be a Heisman finalist, a kid that's played one season of football that most likely will be a top 10 draft pick and probably is done in Columbus after the Rose Bowl game, what better way to recruit the top quarterbacks in the country than saying our head coach just got a kid in one full season, got him to be a top 10 pick? I think a lot of people forget what the optics are. I got into it with Doug LeMarie, or whatever his name is, the French writer or whatever for Cleveland.com, about he's a pompous asshole, and I hope this gets back to him. And Andre Knott said that. You can spell my name, Tim. He knows how to find me. He knows how I feel. But we got into it about the importance of assistant football coaches on the college level. And yes, Tony Alford, who's the running back coach currently at Ohio State, did recruit me at Kent. I do know him well, and I took offense to it. I took offense because anyone that's been around a college football program, and this is no offense to Jim Harbaugh, to Urban Meyer, to any great head coach. There's a reason why great head coaches are great head coaches, but no program becomes top of the line programs without having great assistant coaches, because Wee was complaining about how much assistant coaches were getting paid now in the Big Ten, and it was SEC-like, and I was like, well, you don't win big games without having great recruiters and without having – like, they got the best defensive line coach in America. Do you really want to open up this coaching job and let anybody in the world have it and lose somebody like Johnson as your defensive line coach, who year in, year out has produced – in the 7 years that Urban's been here, you can't tell me Coach Johnson hasn't been one of the most important coaches in the country when you consider the Bozas. Like, look at the defensive linemen they put in the pros in the last 6-7 years, and they're going to continue doing that. He did the same thing at Penn State for 25-plus years. I think keeping Day is perfect. And as you said, if he can't do it, then you put the national search out in 2 or 3 years and you start anew. but maybe you get lucky and you have Dave for 10 more years and you get back to a couple of championships and you run and Gene Smith just does his job till he becomes the big one comes like Stanford son.
No, it really is ideal. I mean, look, you're one of the 3 programs that's championship or bust, right? And that can lead to things falling hard and fast when they do go poorly. But in the meantime, you've got the game that most of your fan base cares about, right? And you've dominated in that series. You have a 100,000-seat stadium funded by big spenders and the big swoosh, right? You not only are in the center of one of the most football-rich states and regions, but you can recruit nationally when you have to. You've had assistants, like you said, guys that are the absolute best in the business, some that have gone on to other jobs, some that just do this, and they want to be there because you pay them the most, because they can recruit anybody, because they know that they can get the very best kids, not just the most talented kids, but the kids that they want. They know they can come to get there, and they know that a lot of times it's only a 2-hour drive to get them. Not always, and I think someone tweeted me this, and I think this will be something we continue to analyze going forward. It will be a big deal to get Ohio kids, but you're right, Jared. There's a chance that Nick Bosa is the number 1 pick in the draft. There's a chance that Dwayne Haskins, ready or not, is a top 5 or 10 or 12 pick in this draft. It certainly looks like if he would come out, he wouldn't get past one of those later Raiders picks, right? So everything is rolling in Ohio State's direction, and frankly, for those of you like me who turned the Maryland game off thinking it was over and went and did other things, this has changed in a hurry, and it's not just like watching Alabama. It's never as easy as it looks. Sustained excellence, incredible level of excellence, and sustained excellence are 2 different things, are 2 different sets of challenges, all of these things. But Ohio State football, which is traditionally an absolute power and a great program, has never been better. And to do the transition this way and have it happen right now. First of all, you better get your bets in now because I think the Rose Bowl line's about to shoot to 14 because they seem like an absolute lock. But just in terms of everything you've talked about, from structure to optics to recruiting, which is the lifeblood of any program, and how Urban took it from great to championship or bust, right? From tradition to being able to reach today's kid, to keeping your fans happy, to holding that mystique of what college football is, of feeling that chill when you go in that stadium and hearing the band despite all the realignment and all the TV and all the business decisions that are made. I mean, they're at the absolute top. So this has been all the credit to Urban Meyer, and obviously he didn't do it alone. He's had guys, many of which we know the names, some of which we don't, that have done it. But this really, I think, because it was time, and we don't have to have this discussion now, but I think it was time. And so to be able to do it in this fashion, again, maybe a year and a month from now we'll look at it differently, but 7 or 8 hours after the news broke and it filled up Twitter and our text messages and all of that, I just think Ohio State absolutely comes out the winner in just about any way we could continue to analyze this.
Let me ask you a question. We did a conversation a few weeks back about Matt Campbell, about the best job in Ohio as a football coach. Not one bone in your body, not any frustration at all that Matt Campbell doesn't even get an opportunity to interview for this job?
You're talking about as someone who knows Matt Campbell well and roots for Matt Campbell? Yeah, no, honestly not. Honestly not, because Matt just turned 39 last week. Matt has a really good thing going that's going to lead him to an absolute supreme job somewhere else. And first of all, I think you have to know. I mean, Matt doesn't have an agent, and neither did Urban. They have the same advisor. Matt and Urban are close. When he was at Toledo, he spent a lot of time in bowl practices, spring practices at Ohio State. He was basically recruiting the guys that Ohio State was recruiting but not offering. They were all after the same guys. And I just think there's not that many secrets, so I think that he knows. And from the other standpoint, too, and this is a good way to kind of talk about the Brown search. I forget who I was talking to about this the other day, but when you talk about Matt, when you talk about Lincoln Riley, when you talk about Matt Rule or, not Saban in the 1% chance that he would make the jump to the Packers job. But, Dre, when these guys fail in the NFL, they have to go back to being a coordinator or they have to get themselves on First Take or something like that. But when a college coach makes that leap, the reason you do it obviously is for the money and for the opportunity and the chance to be one of 32. But you always have that primo college job waiting on you again. And Lincoln Riley's 35. Like I said, Matt just turned 39. So, deep down inside, do I think Matt Campbell, the kid from Perry High School, the kid who once thought he'd coach at Mount Union for 30 years, does he want to be the coach at Ohio State? Sure. But I still think he's got a lot of time, if that is really meant to be, for him or for the university.
Yeah, I think it's better for him, to be honest. I don't think he's ready. I think at 39, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think he's a wonderful coach. I think you take this in. Ryan Day did get 5 years, $4 million per, it sounds like. God bless him. And this isn't a hint towards Matt Campbell. I was saying this about the Browns job. I think if you were going to go off the way that Urban did things, would you compare Iowa State to Utah? Or would you get where I'm going with this? Like Urban had the perfect Bowling Green, then Utah, and then when he went to Florida, all bets were off. I mean, he's still mid-50s. Urban now, what is he, 57, I think? 50, whatever
54,
it is, doesn't matter.
54, yeah.
54, I'm sorry. So at 39, to me, because like you just made a great point about when you get certain jobs, if you fail at them, there's not as much of a, there's not as much of a cushion that you fall back to. You can get to, but once you get to a certain level, there's certain jobs you'll always get. I guess if I was advising Matt Campbell and I was advising any coach in their 30s, I would say being successful on a lower rank a little bit longer is better than jumping every 2-3 years, because sooner or later the jumps are going to stop, and that huge, that jump that you had going is going to get crushed, because all people are going to remember is that you went to Purdue. Like the guy that went from Kent, had the one good year at Kent, and he got the hell out of Kent and went to Purdue. It was a great move, but he wasn't ready to be at Purdue, right? And now no one remembers his name, me included, and I'm using him.
You just made a great analogy and then said you actually don't have any idea who you're talking about.
I know his face. I can see his face. Darrell. What was it? He wore his hat weird. He was
Daryl Hazel. Yes.
Daryl Hazel. But it makes my point. Be careful, Matt Campbell. Ride it out at Iowa State. Keep giving them new matte uniforms and those black uniforms and give them all that other stuff. Slow down, because to me, in 4 or 5 years, we can say, okay, Ryan Day, you are the guy that's going to be the next John Cooper, next Urban Meyer, next Jim Tressel, or you're going to be the next Earl Bruce, and we're going to move on. And in 4 years, Matt Campbell can go to, I don't know, maybe you stay at Iowa State. Hell, you can stay at Iowa State and win 8-9 games a year, 4 or 5 years in a row. That establishes you as one of the best coaches in the land, because no one else has ever been able to do that at Iowa State, right? If I was advising him, I think he's a great coach. I think he's got everything in front of him, and he's got a chance to be a dominant head coach, make all the money in the world. I don't think Ames, Iowa is that bad of a place to hide and get your craft together. Maybe you go to a SEC, but it's like, what's the point of going to Vanderbilt and winning 7-8 games and getting your head bashed in? What's the point? I'm just using that as an example.
Well, I think he knows all this, for one.
I'm pretty sure he does too. That's what I'm saying. We talked about him going to Ohio State. I know it's sexy. Like Lincoln, like the situation down in Oklahoma has worked out pretty well because of the situation. Stoops said his guy, and that's what they did to Oklahoma, right? I haven't heard anybody say that today. I'm sure they have. But isn't this basically what Stoops did for Lincoln in Oklahoma when he walked away?
Sure. And if you were Lincoln Riley, would you leave Norman, Oklahoma? Because I sure as hell would.
Hell no.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
I like your Utah-Iowa State comparison. I think that's very accurate. And that's, going back 15 years, it was a different time in college football. And it was a different time for Utah because they weren't in the Pac-12 then. So I think it's a very fair. But
exactly.
Two things. One, I think with Matt, Ohio State is different because he's from Ohio. So that's different. But you making that comparison reminds me. This is a name some of you guys will know. Mitch Hewitt. He played for Urban at BG. He's now the coach at Chardon High School, which is his alma mater. And he was an excellent player there. And I don't really know Mitch personally, but professionally we've had enough interactions that we've talked. And one time he was telling me about Urban's first year at BG when he took over a team that was 3-8 or 2-9. How he came in and how the workouts were so grueling, and all of a sudden the standards, which were non-existent before, were running. Mitch was like, 30 guys were willing to walk away from full scholarships because they could not do what Urban Meyer was not asking, demanding that we do. And, you know, when a kid transfers from Ohio State, everybody wants him because he got to Ohio State based on his talent, right? And they'll sort through the issues later. But when a kid walks away from Bowling Green in 2001 or 2002, he might not have another issue. And Mitch kept reinforcing – another option, I mean. And Mitch kept reinforcing to me how many of them were willing to just walk away altogether because they couldn't do it. And how, you know, the early days of the spread offense – they were figuring things out, but they always felt so prepared. How they beat Northwestern because they had a 2-point play already ready to go. Like Urban just instilled, we're going to be there, guys, and then eventually we're going to run this. It was basically a version of Philly Special before it was called Philly Special, and how they knew that. And so I just remember from way back then, like knowing this guy is different. And then of course, you know, he always wanted Ohio State. And things worked out the way they worked out, and he did that. So, you know, I just think today it comes down to, well, you know, are there some black marks on Urban Meyer's legacy? Well, sure. Will you find a bunch of people that work for him that say that this was the greatest experience of my life? No. But he won. He won the games that matter. He almost always won as an underdog. He covered the spread more. His winning percentage blows that of Saban and Chris Peterson out of the water. The 12-0 first season at Ohio State, 7-0 against Michigan. So it comes down to winning, and he did that, and he's done that, and he will forever and ever be a legend at a place where there, frankly, are a lot of them, and it's an absolutely elite college football program.
Right. No, absolutely. And what Urban did at Bowling Green, that's done by a lot of big time coaches. That's how you bend the herd. That's how you keep get your scholarships and get your team the way you want. Mm-hmm. You push them to a point. Heck, I saw that at Kent with it happens. It's just a part of the deal. Hey, you know what? I'm grateful for the time as a fan of the game. I wasn't a fan of everything that Urban did, how he treated certain people, how he goes about his business. But at the end of the day, and we can have, and this is a whole other conversation, a whole other podcast, because I have conversations with other people about this. For what college football and college athletics are today, Urban Meyer did exactly what his job was. Everybody may not like the optics and how he went about doing it, but what Ohio State asked Urban Meyer to do and the prominence that they wanted, they've accomplished. I've had Michigan people tell me, well, you know, Harbaugh is a clean-cut guy and this and that. And that's great. And they love getting their ass kicked, I guess, every year at the end of the year by Ohio State. Because, cause I get sick of hearing people say that. Like, college athletics they're not cut and dry, right? I think you know that, I know that. It's not a cut and dry thing. It's a billion-dollar business. And the billions of dollars and the money that gets generated, it gets generated for one reason. And we can take this right into pro football. Wins and losses. No, you don't want kids getting arrested. No, you don't want kids failing out of school. No, you don't want kids beating each other up or beating people up and things of that nature. But that happens on a college campus. Why you hire Harbaugh, Urban Meyer, Joe Paterno, or Tom Osborne or anybody else is to win football games. Urban Meyer did it unlike anyone else we've ever seen it. Thank you, Urban, for the time that you gave. Thank you for establishing and making Ohio State football what it is and what we've all walked around from the day I was born in 78, you were born in 79, 80. We've always been told Ohio football was special, and there was a reason why it stood out, and there was a reason why you wanted to go to Columbus and be a part of that. And I think Urban Meyer did everything in his power to show why Ohio State football means so much to the state of Ohio. And to that, I say thank you. I know some people will hate this, and they'll bring up stuff that happened in Florida and bring up the stuff with Zach Smith, and that's fine or dandy. If that's all you have to go at, I think most people in Columbus today who signed the big checks and who put their names all over those buildings all over there will shake their heads at you in disgust and say, thanks for watching. We still appreciate everything Urban did for us. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right?
They raised the big trophy once. They beat Michigan every time. Nobody's going to say they have regrets. No way. No way.
Right.
You're right.
No, and like 15, 20 years from now, when we look back at the Urban Meyer era, it's going to be mostly positive.
Sure. Right? And like I said, I think that one game this year has a lot to do with that, and I'm going to stand by that. I really do. Because, listen, The Green Bay Packers just fired Mike McCarthy, right? Who won a Super Bowl, who went to the playoffs in 9 of 12 years.
9 of 13 years, yes.
Thad Matta got fired from this is how it ends, guys. This is high pressure, high stakes business. And when you win, when you accumulate success and notoriety and money and wins and fame and all of these things, it just sets you up for a fall. That's human nature. That's nature of the world, right? That's pre and post social media. It doesn't end well for guys. Very few walk away on their own terms. Very few walk away without some sort of fall off, some sort of losing, right? There is a small chance the Patriots win it this year and Brady and Belichick quit. It's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to lose, and it's going to end, right? And this has been the NFL dynasty of our lifetimes. Doubt. So
no doubt.
I could keep applying it. I want to say one other thing about Urban. Yes, he's recruited the best players, and yes, he's done it his way. But he always built teams. He always molded teams. It wasn't just getting really good players. It wasn't just running the spread offense, right?
No.
Even this year, like I said, it was rocky, and winning is everything. And they didn't make the playoff because they lost by 29 to Purdue. But he built teams, starting with that pass rush at Florida, and then the offense built around Tebow and all of these things. He built teams that could beat your team.
Do you remember the first time we saw that defensive line at Florida? It was the one that beat Ohio State in the national championship and getting the kick return back, and the athletes he had there, and we all said, "Holy shit!" He had a 4x100 team lining up at Carlos Dunlap like he had
Alex Brown,
animal,
Alex
Brown. He had we had never seen that. Now that is how college football is played. That's how football is played. One other thing, and because I want to move on, but I got to say this. I'm glad you brought up the spread and the importance of the spread with Urban. The one thing I do know from a coach's clinic that I was around, and Urban was very good at this, of saying, yes, we run the spread, but the dynamics and the thought process of it go right back to running the veer offense or running the option. We're only trying to outnumber guys in spaces and numbers. And I don't want to get too technical because some people won't understand it. But I love how we all – and I'm raising my hand. I've been one of these that have said this too. It's very easy to get caught up in the optics of football nowadays and seeing spread. And I know I have a buddy like you got a buddy. I'm one of that buddy sometimes too that hates where the game is gone, where they're lined up in a shotgun on 4th and 1. That drives me insane.
Clap, hut.
But, the clapping. I'm not a fan of all that, but I do know because I was standing there, I've heard Urban say it. The basis of all of that still goes back to the reason you run the option to the short side of the field if you get the numbers stacked up against you right. It's just like running a veer to the odd side. If you can get that odd linebacker lined up right where you want him, or you get that guard off the tackle just right where he can come down and shoot him and get him out of the way. The guy still had the traditional fundamentals that we all grew up with. He was innovative enough to realize he could change a little bit of that, put the quarterback in the shotgun. And as much as I hated watching J.T. Barrett run the ball 15 times, 16 times a game, or even watching Touchdown Jesus himself do it down in Florida, there was a mindset behind it that goes all the way back from a kid that was born in Ashtabula, Ohio, that lived, grew up in the basis of it is just like what we saw Earl Bruce do, Bo Schembechler do. That's what it was. It just looked different, and he was innovative enough. I'm not saying he started it and did it, but he was smart enough to see something and make the most of it, but kept the same rules that he learned from the very beginning. I find that awesome, and I find that most of us don't realize that or see that enough in our everyday life. Let me ask you about Mike McCarthy. You brought his name up. I wasn't going to bring it up. Boring offense at times. I'm going to say my negatives towards him, but then because I'll admit to you, I don't get why people are so down on him. He is not perfect. Let me say that. His offense, he needs to probably go, if he's smart, for the next week and a half, he needs to do exactly what Hugh Jackson didn't do. He needs to sit his ass at home, learn about his kids, hug his family, hug his dog, hell, maybe even do a project on his yard somewhere just so he knows what it's like. And then if I was him, I would go to about 5 college campuses, and then on January 10th, I would say to the NFL, give me a job so I can go out and kick ass. The guy who was coached in the same place 12 years, he had longer tenures at Green Bay. And I'm not saying I want him as a Browns coach. I'm not. but I'm sick of hearing the slander upon him. He had a longer tenure in Green Bay than Mike Holmgren and a guy named Lombardi. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He went to the playoffs in an era where it's not easy to go to the playoffs, in an era for an organization that does not do free agency, for an era that he didn't get to pick his players at all, 9 times to the playoffs. Yes, he had one of the best quarterbacks of all time, but let's remember, that best quarterback of all time, who I love, doesn't even talk to his own family. So obviously he's a little quirky and not the easiest guy to probably coach and be around every single day. I will say his offense has gotten a little stale. That's why I think he should go and look at some of the more expansive offenses. But I saw Scott Van Pelt say this last night, and I'm going to ride the coattails of it because I agree. Keep beating up on Mike McCarthy, and very well he's going to end up like Andy Reid. Andy Reid's time in Philadelphia had run out. It's very similar. He was so West Coast. He refused to put his quarterback in the shotgun. He refused. If you remember, Donovan McNabb got the shit beat out of him in that Super Bowl because basically in that Super Bowl they put their 2 best guards. They just beat up the guards of Philadelphia, and they beat the shit out of McNabb. And most of it was because Andy Reid refused to go to the shotgun because it wasn't his thing. It wasn't what they did. He learned in that Super Bowl, and he evolved. And now he's evolved to having one of the most exciting offenses in football. His time ran out in Philadelphia. He needed a new – and this happens in life all the time. This may happen I hope this happens with you at The Athletic in 10 years or 15 years. It probably happened at a job I have in 10 or 15 years. It gets stale, but talented people usually find a way to evolve and continue to be talented. That's all I'm going to say about Mike McCarthy. I get that everything's not perfect, but for him to have the run he had, there's something there. Be careful beating up on a guy like that is all I would say.
Here's my thought on – well, I'm going to share 2 because I know how sensitive some of you guys are. I believe, and I'm not sourced reporting this because Matt would not tell me even if it was true. I believe that the Browns will discreetly speak to Matt Campbell and will try to speak to Lincoln Riley this month. I do not believe that they will hire Matt Campbell right now. Okay, just let me get that out there. But as for who they do hire and how they go about it, Jerry, I think – and this week marks exactly 1 year since John Dorsey's officially been on the job. Okay, I think when you talk about McCarthy, about Bruce Arians, who I think is just talking, who I don't really think wants to do it, if it came down to it. When you talk about those guys, when you talk about John Harbaugh potentially getting fired, although that's certainly not a guarantee. I think, Dre, if you're Dorsey and you've had a year to judge the organization, the locker room, but really the organization as a whole, and you think that there's just things that you really don't like and you think you need a guy who absolutely has done it before, absolutely has conducted himself in a professional manner, and you need a cleanup more than you need an offensive genius, then I think those guys are in play. And I can't answer that, and Dorsey won't answer that, right? And
he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to.
Right. But I think only in that scenario is that in play. As I've said long before last Sunday, I don't think he studied this organization for 11 months to hire Greg Williams. You know, I can't say with any certainty it's the same way about Mike McCarthy because even though they obviously know each other well, we don't know what their relationship is. And they might have had a great working relationship, but John might have sat in that booth on Sundays and said, I'm not sure he's a great game day coach, you know, or I'm not sure he's the guy that could get a young quarterback to the next levels. And this is my one Browns thought because I want to go back to college football as we finish here over the next several minutes, and this has been college football based because of the news of the day. I have one Browns thought from last Sunday. I really like one thing that happened in that game, and that's when Antonio Callaway, who's got to get a lot better and got a lot of growing up to do, when he fumbled that ball at the 1 yard line, Baker Mayfield ran his ass all the way down the sideline and all the way across the field to be the first guy there to tell Antonio Callaway, that's all right, keep your head up, we need you. And guys, we want to crown Baker Mayfield. It ain't happening this year. Good, bad, and different, not one way or the other. We begged you for months to quit thinking this team was a playoff team or quit thinking this team's all the way back. The Browns are in the living, breathing NFL. They have a long way to go. And Baker Mayfield, who's been ahead of any standard, any expectation outside of his own and John Dorsey's, has been pretty good. It's not happening yet. He has a long way to go, too. So I just think you look at that game, you take your ass whooping, you take your humble pie, and you say there are positives, we've seen how far it is, and we will see over the coming months and years if the Cleveland Browns can get themselves ready to beat the best teams in the AFC, because right now we saw last Sunday how close they really are.
And that's okay. That's a part of it.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but that's what bothers me. This is all I want to say. I saw you tweeted something, and Dane Brugler, shout out to the Northeast Ohio, and love having him on the Athletic, and reading his stuff. He tweeted something, you tweeted something. I'm going to go off the Callaway play. And Dane, there's not many guys I'll put my money down on what Dane says about a player, and knowing their film from college, and knowing what they are, and knowing why they got drafted where they got drafted. And all you simply said, and I can't say it verbatim because I don't have your tweet in front of me. I don't make love to people's tweets. If anything, I understand off Twitter more than ever before. I'm starting to hate the whole process of it, to be honest. But you basically said that's what happens when you play a player that's not ready. You play a player full-time that's not ready to be a full-time player. Dane basically, and you can tell exactly what you said. I'm not here to quote in the quote business. Dane basically said that's the conundrum of Callaway. Okay, the speed and everything else, but and somebody jumps at me. He's like, well, he's out of breath. He's this and this. It's okay. There are excuses. There are reasons. But there are a reason why guys get drafted where they get drafted. There's a reason why other teams wouldn't draft certain players. Look, I like Callaway. I think he's got a chance to be special. I think the quarterback thinks that as well. That's why he ran out and did that. But you cannot – it's a fundamental mistake to get in front of a crowd of guys and not put the ball next to the pylon and have it in your right arm when you're running down the middle of the field. It's one of the first things you're taught as a ball carrier. To me, I know shit happens during the midst of a game. I get it. I've carried a ball in a game before, so I understand. But you have to go off your fundamental rules that you're taught from day one if you want to be a special player. He didn't do that. If the ball's in the left arm, that safety runs him down, they get the ball. He probably does a fumble. He may score. They get the ball on the 1 yard line. I'm not killing Callaway. But just because you're a fan and you want your team to win or you like a player, we're still allowed to say negative things about them. Chill out. Just like with Mayfield. The kid's got a good future. Romeo Crennel did exactly what we knew he would do. It's the defense you and I have talked about for 5 weeks now, right, Zach? You muddle it up, you make it look like one thing, and you drop everybody. And he refused. And what they basically were begging him to do is to run the football, and they were going to try to bang him up and hit him. And now the Houston defensive line is way more talented than what they're going to see probably the rest of the year. Well, maybe in Denver. I'll take that back. So they could do some things. But Romeo was brilliant in what they did. That Cunningham kid's got a chance to be pretty good, too, by the way. He played a hell of a game. That Cunningham kid is going to be good.
Oh, they got so much talent on that defense. Justin Reed is really good, too, and he's only a rookie.
Reed is. Yes, you're right. Reed is a good player. Cunningham's a good player. And we're not even talking about their 5 best players. Think about that. Those are their 5 best. Romeo did but you know what? Being around Romeo and knowing where Romeo's from, he did exactly what Bill – that was a Belichick defense, right? You show a bunch of shit and you don't do anything. You just drop it and make them, piece your way down the field. I said in a pregame show, and Greg Brenda and Munch looked at me like I had 3 heads. And then at halftime, they both texted me and said, Jesus, you should have called the game plan. I said, the only way you're going to beat the Texans is by throwing over the top of the defense. I go, because basically Romeo is going to dare you to do that. And you're not going to go 80 yards in 10 plays against their defense because they're a bend but don't break, and they're going to make you make mistakes. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. That's okay, though. It's okay. Baker Mayfield needed to see that. And going forward, they got a good chance to win. I don't know who Carolina is. I don't know if Carolina knows who they are, to be honest. They better have fun trying to keep up with that white running back, though. I'll tell you that. That boy good. That boy good.
Stat nerd department, he is that white running back is the only guy in NFL history to have over 50 yards rushing and receiving in X amount of games. I think it's 4 games, maybe 5.
I saw that.
Yeah.
He's putting up numbers like Marshall Faulk and like the kid that's not going to be allowed to play anymore. And let me say one thing. You guys know I don't condone domestic violence in any shape, way, or form. I'm totally against it. One of the first rules of my life, and one of the only rules, and one of the rules I tell my son, and he will always know this, is you never raise your hand to a woman. You never kick a woman, and you deserve to get your ass kicked, and you deserve to be spit on afterwards if you do it. Whoever is around Kareem Hunt and told him to talk last Sunday is an idiot as well. Kareem needs to take a huge step back and look in the mirror at who's around him and who's giving him advice. Because Lisa Salters, God bless her, she kicked his ass. he didn't have any of the answers for the questions she was asking, and it proved that he's not ready for this situation. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he made a terrible decision. He's made some terrible decisions. He needs to grow up. But somebody's got to be around you to say, hey, man, 3-4 days after something like this happens, let it simmer down. Don't become the fodder and let your words go against it. You never apologize to the actual victim. You only came off like you only cared about yourself and losing your career. And we get it. That's natural, but you don't tell the world that. Go get your help. And you know what? In the beginning of the summer next year, that's when you talk. And you talk about what you learned about yourself and how you become a better man and a better person and more understanding of the mistakes you made. You don't talk right after. And it shows. That happened in February. Now we got incidents in January. Had an incident a couple weeks after that in Put-in-Bay. He's obviously not controlling himself. And I'll say this, at a young age, get a little bit of money, feeling good about yourself, you start smelling yourself, as my dad used to say. It's the worst time of your life when you start smelling yourself and not realizing that your shit does stink too. But kudos to the Washington Redskins as well. Keep getting those domestic violence guys, but letting Mark Sanchez be your quarterback because it showed up on Monday night, and now you're not going to make the playoffs. Congrats.
Honeymoon Grill, Cleveland Scene, American Fireworks. A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. As always, we'll let Andre get the last word, but I'll follow his thought with words, or his thought on Kareem Hunt, I should say, with words of the great Twitter philosopher Martellus Bennett. Keep your dick in your pants and keep your hands to yourself. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. My last words are this, and those are the best words from Marty Marr. It is Hova, Jay-Z's birthday today. And I will leave us with a verse, and I only do this because I went and saw a concert with Zach probably, I don't know, that was 5-6 years ago?
It was 2010, you old fuck.
Damn. Well, tonight I'm going to push the button, and I'm going to go see Travis Scott with my boy Pete. So pray for me because you know I'm too old to be seeing that. But since it's Jay-Z's birthday, I'm going to give you one of my favorite verses from him. And it goes back probably 20 years, and it's not the best verse, but everybody tweet me your favorite Jay-Z verse or some lines that you love. But this is the first one I remember verbatim. When the Remy hits the system, ain't no telling. Will I fuck them? Will I diss them? That's what they be yelling. I'm a pimp by blood, not relation. Y'all be chasing. I replace them. Konnichiwa, bitches.
I don't know why any of you listen to this podcast. We'll see you next time.